Okay, my friends, get ready, hold on tight. Shocking new info on meteorites out today. Okay, prepare thyself. There are three main types of meteorites. There's iron meteorites, everybody knows about those, and they're actually metal. They consist mostly of metal, almost completely. Then there's stony iron meteorites, which have stony stuff plus iron. Then there is, which are nearly equal amounts of metal and silicate crystals. Then there's stony meteorites, which have mostly silicate minerals and very sparse on the metals. I have all three right here in front of you. This is the stony type meteorite. It came through space. There's very little metals in here, but it's almost all silicates. This is the iron style. It's completely iron, basically. Very heavy and magnetic. Then there's the stony iron ones, which is here. You have iron, and then you also have the stony part. So you have two different sets of materials here. Now, in order for something to turn iron from blood, literally from blood, and this is what's going on. These have blood in them. This is a lung. I'm going to show you this in the microscope. It's you can't miss it. And I'm going to show you other meteorites coming through space, which also have lots of blood. Yeah, here it is right here. NASA's New Horizons discovered a large surprise in the Kuiper Belt. Now, what is the large surprise? Well, it's about meteorites. Okay, this is just one of many, but it is the most recent in a growing body of evidence that our understanding of this outer solar system is lacking, and the inner solar system as well. Okay, let's just start with this right here. This is Professor Dave. He's got 2.8 million subscribers, and they're talking about asteroids and meteors and all that stuff. Now, he says sometimes a meteor is large enough to make it to the ground. Now, listen to what he has to say. All right, I'm going to turn this up. It might be a little loud, but that's okay. Here goes.
A remnant of the meteor will make it to the ground. And once a meteor touches the ground, it's called a meteorite. These objects are quite valuable for studying the early solar system.
All right, that's all we have to know. He's showing an iron meteorite. They cut it across, and these are all the crystals of different types of metals that are inside. But guess what else is inside? So don't forget, we have three basic types of meteorites. There's the iron, almost completely metals. Then there's the stony iron, a little of each, metals and stone. And then there's the stony meteorites, which are almost completely silicates. All three of those are represented right here. Okay, this is nothing more than iron ore, which is nothing more than blood. It's Fe2O3. All right, that's the oxygenated style. These are the different iron that's in the blood. This just tells you, watch out. This is it, Fe2O3, that's blood. Now that is a little bit reduced from the red side towards the used side. This is completely towards the used side. This is iron oxide yellow. Now let me show you where this shows up on Earth. You see this? A friend of mine went out and found this heart, which is a heart. It was a rock, and he smacked it and it opened up, and here's the red blood was still inside. There's the yellow oxide, and here is the one that's almost between the red and the yellow. So here it is after he just broke it open out of the earth, and here it is after an hour or two sitting around. The red blood turned into magnetite, really. It took on extra oxygen, or removed oxygen, basically. But this is the structure of a heart. Now, if this had come through space, all of this stuff is burnable. All of that would burn away, and you would end up with iron. So what is iron? What is iron meteorites? That's an iron meteorite right there, just like I showed you from Professor Dave. Well, guess what? What is that spot and what is this spot? What's that doing in the middle of this iron meteorite? I can tell you what it's doing in there. It's blood. All right, and here it is up close. There's the red blood right there. That's red blood. And this over here is the used blood, the black blood. You see the nice little round spots? That's where blood came in to service whatever that was. It could have been a liver, it could have been a heart, but I don't think it was a lung. Hearts and lungs are the ones that come through as iron meteorites, but usually the hearts are more or less like what I just showed you here. The lungs do this. This is a lung. That's a gigantic lung. And this right here, my friends, is still some red blood in this. This is an iron meteorite. You see that spot right down there, that little red spot? There's still blood in there. That's a little blood vessel that goes inside the heart. Now I have them here, terrestrial ones, that are just like that. Basically the same thing. And they still have blood in them. You see all that red stuff? I showed you what blood looks like when it's powdered up. That's the red. Now I got the microscope going. We're going to do some microscope shots of the stony meteorites. Well, this is in the middle. This has blood and stone. This has almost all stone, all blood, because it was a lung, same as that. And this is a stony meteorite. It has virtually no smelted blood. There's tons of it in here. You see all that red? There's plenty of blood in there, but it's not so dense that it turned into iron. It's just turned into this dusty looking stuff. Now this didn't come through space. This was a terrestrial one. And I have this that did come through space. And I have a terrestrial one of these that did not come through space. But it is identical. You see that little hook right there? That's the same as this little hook right here. You see it? You see that dot and that dot? It's the same as this dot right here and that dot right here. You see the structure? You see this side? This is what leaked out. That was red blood over here. This is the vein blood on this side. The red blood leaks right out. Very weak. The red blood is just fluid. This one, coming through space, heated up enough where it exploded the red blood right out of there. That's red blood in here. And these were the ligaments, or the tendons actually, that attach. There's one here, and one here. This is a fingertip, and so is this. This is terrestrial, this is from outer space. Everything that I have found coming through space is biological. I have found nothing that is not biological. All right, this is from NASA. You see that spot right there, and that spot, that little round spot, and that little round spot, that still has blood in it. That's what this is. This is exactly the same as this. Exactly identical. It's a bonehead. This, the blood is gone. This still had the blood in it, which rose to the surface as it cooked coming through space. You can see it's all blacked off. And that's where the blood was, right there and there. This is a bone. It's a head of a bone. And that is as well. And like I said, I found nothing that came through space that is not biological, and nothing that's on Earth that's not biological. Everything has come from biology. That's all I can tell you. Even my friend Caesar here, the goose. There's his little nose jobber. There's his eye. That's his beak, bill, whatever they call it. There's his feathers. There's his feathers right there. And this was his neck. If you can look at it, you can tell it's turned into basalt, or they call it a lot of different things. But this is called nucleophilic invasion and substitution. So what was in here became substituted by what was ever in the waters and the chemistry as it soaked for long duration of time, and it's flat on this side because it was in the Great Flood. This is all products of the Great Flood. And all of these I have found on the surface of the Earth. This fingertip, everything is on the surface of the Earth. So it's not that old. And I have other ones that turned into just like regular meat. That's a piece of meat, basically. And that's the fascia. And this is the meat and the marbling of the meat. It's now a rock. It didn't just form like that for no reason whatsoever. That is meat. And this little flap I have found is on all where these invest into other organs in the body and other tissue. There's a flap right there. Let me show you that. You see that? That's this one right here. That's the little tab right there. Same as that right there. these tabs lock in an organ or a body part to another part of the body, and there's a flap just exactly like that. That's something new to medicine. They didn't realize this. They thought this was just all fascia, one big thing. No, it's not. That tab is different than any other part of the fascia. This is a latch. I call it the spur lock. All right, I just named it after me. Now, not only that, that spur lock is on this lung that came through space, this iron lung. You don't get the iron until you hit about 2,500, 3,000 degrees, right around there. This didn't happen on Earth, and this didn't happen on Earth either. This came through space, and so did this. And I will show you the spur lock on this lung. Every single lung that I have has one. Okay, my friends, so don't forget now, there's three primarily types, which is iron, which is, because this one here is completely iron, basically. Almost made completely of metals. Iron primarily, because blood is primarily iron. Now you have the stony-iron meteorites, which is what this is. And it's stony because it more or less contained bones with marrow in them. And when they boiled off, they burnt off. It kept some of the bone, and the blood turns into iron. Then that which they have nearly equal amounts. You can see. I'll show it to you in the microscope. You'll see. Then you have the stony meteorites like this. That there's not a whole lot of blood in them, and this baby basically exploded. All right, so they don't melt or smelt. They basically dissolve in the silicates. And this one did have a lot of blood in it, though. It did. You see how red that is? That was all wet. Hotter and hotter and hotter. This side, you see that little circle right there? I don't know if you can see that or not. But that right there and this right here was the vein side. Veins don't blow out. They turn hard, and they have valves in them. The arteries have no valves. They can go this way, that way, backward, this sideways, any way they want. These can go only one way, the blood, and it actually comes back. And I can show that as well in this one. This is the same as this is another fingertip. You see how the red blood just runs right out of here? There's two big main arteries here and one at the tip. That's the way fingers are made. And there's also two veins on the sides, and there's one at the end of the tip as well. All right, the red blood just drained right out. The vein side plugs off, precisely as this did. All right, only that one exploded. This one just leaked. These are exactly identical, same structures, only one's a little bigger than the other one. You see this little pocket there, the pocket here, the little hook there, the hook here. At the tip, you see it? There's no difference whatsoever. Exactly the same. This one was flattened out in the flood. All right, this one came through space. It wasn't flattened out. And you can see where the tendons came up. You see that perfectly round circle? There was another perfectly round circle, and then there was another one over here. There's three big major ones. That one blew off with all the rest of this stuff when it boiled off and exploded. So that's the stony one. And this one here is the iron one. And that one there is the half and half. Okay, this is the little iron meteorite in the microscope. Now, I'm sort of going to do this by hand, jiggle around so you can see different areas. But these little white spots, hold on, let me get my feather here. Those little white spots are the fibers that are in the fabric that coats the lung. This, because it was so small, they didn't burn off completely. I'm going to show you a lung. It's normally would be absolutely totally saturated. You see there's quite a few of them here. There's only a few over here. Every one of those little pockets was one of the alveoli. Now I put some water in here just because the water makes it seem a lot more visible. Now this is, I'm going to try to focus in on that. These are just alveoli in the lung, and they cooked off. And you can see these fibers are the ones that I'm talking about, which are from the fascia. But the whole thing is nothing more than it's blacked off, and it's magnetic because inside it's just 100% saturated with blood. You can see it. And I have put hydrogen peroxide in there and gotten a catalase reaction, which is the reaction that indicates there's enzymes in there, and the enzymes are from the blood. All right, so now let me show you the spur lock on this, which is it's a tiny little lung. I don't know what it was from. I don't know, a chipmunk or something. Who knows? But it came through space. That's all I can tell you. All right, I'm going to sort of jiggle it around again. This is the spur lock right there. Watch, I'm going to back it up. You see how it's a different look to it totally than the rest? Back where it hits. Let me dry it up a little bit. I put a little moisture on it. You can always see better. But you see the latch right there? Looks like somebody's face. That's the latch. It goes back, and it works its way into the fabric. So this is the latch that holds the lung into your body, so your lung can drift around. You see these guys playing football and stuff like that, their lungs are going flying all through their body. Same thing with their hearts, livers, kidneys. They're getting smashed to bits. And if they didn't have something holding these things together, they'd just be one big ball of gush inside. You see this? This is nothing but alveoli. This was a lung. Well, it is a lung. Okay, this is outrageous. This is the bony one that is 50-50. It's half metal and half bone. Now you see the black stuff here? And it was red and black. That's where it boiled off. That is marrow. You see a reddy, bloody, nasty looking stuff in there? Now, on the other side, outside here, is the bone. You see, that's the bone. All right, the bone is still partially intact. Let me see if I can home in on this. Hold on, I'm doing this by hand, but you can see the outside layer of the bone. And then just below it is all that blackened stuff, which was the blood. Well, the marrow. And then, of course, it heated up and exploded just like the other one did. But that's the bone on the outside. So, yeah. And that's something. So this is the 50-50. So I show you the total iron, the 50-50. Now let's go to the other one. I forgot about this. Before we go to the stony one, remember that's the iron lung. Iron lung, yes. Now, this is the little white fibers, but there was a ton of them before. It was completely saturated with them. And here's what it looks like in a terrestrial lung. And this was DNA tested and CAT scanned as well. But you see all those fibers? That's what would have been in that lung if it was never smelted off. But once it cooked up and burnt up, and this has a little spur lock over here too. And so does this. This one here is completely intact, absolutely flawless. You know, it's just perfect. And again, flat as a pancake on one side. This one here, you see there's the spur lock on this one. This one's completely stripped. This one is stripped of all the pleura. That's called pleura. And we're down to the alveoli. You see these little holes in there? They filled in with silicates. All right, and there's the spur lock. And there's that tube right there, I believe, was what runs the interstitial fluid between these separations which coat organs, because they're going to have a different type of chemistry as well. I learned a lot about this. Is that the chemistry is going to be totally different in different organs. Your heart is going to have different chemistry than your gallbladder, obviously. So you're going to need a different type of fascia. So then after that fascia, you have to link to another one. And that's where these little tubes and so forth do it. And I have another little tiny one here. Hold on, let me show you this. This will make it even more obvious. You see that right there? You see that little thing right there? Hold on. That's the spurlock right there. And put a little water on there. Again, a taste of water always makes things better to see. You see it? And that's on the bottom of a lung. This was where the plumbing of that lung was. All of this is whatever kind of lung it was. These little balls are the alveoli of this lung. And that is the latch, the spurlock. They all have them, and I showed you the one that came through space has one too. And this one has one too, this one here. That's the spurlock right there. That it comes down and it turns that little into that flap right there. You see it? There's the flap. Whoops, you can't see that. Hold on, I'm up way too close. All right, you see that? That's the flap. From this spurlock on this DNA tested human lung. And the back is flat as a pancake, just like almost all of my stuff is, because it died in a great flood. And what happened was a hot water flood. It boiled the organs out of these creatures. If you took and boiled a complete body, all of the fleshy stuff would turn into mud. It would turn into like soupy stuff. And when it dried out, it would be mud. But you would have the organs would stay intact. And that is because of the chemistry of the phospholipids. Every single one of these coatings, on every single rock almost, they say it's very unusual to find a rock without feldspar. And feldspar is aluminum silicates. And here's exactly what happens. This is fascia. Fascia is made out of phospholipids. Well, what's phospholipids? Lipids is fat. Phospho is phosphorus. Well, when phosphorus boils and cooks and so forth, it degrades down to silicon and aluminum. Every single coating of virtually every single rock is coated with aluminum silicates, which is called feldspar. Just look it up, do some research. Aluminum silicates is the primary coating of virtually every rock. It's called feldspar. And then inside the rocks, you get into some different stuff, like this here. That's all feldspar. But inside it's basalts, because that was the guy's body, the creature's body. Well, Caesar, not goose. Caesar Augustus. There's his feathers. I think I showed you this before. I show him a million times. I love Caesar. Good guy. Never gives me any trouble at all. Okay, I got a special treat for you. This is that stony meteorite giant fingertip. Now, I'm looking down here, and you're going to see some bony stuff, and then you're going to see some of the red stuff. Now, I'm going to show you what a difference it makes when you have something wet versus something dry. Because right now it's dry. So let's look at it, what we're looking at in the microscope. There it is right there. All right, well, I might have a taste of moisture over here, but watch this. I'm going to put a little water on here. Where do you see the transition from when you put water on something? See that? You see how quick you can see things change? That's the bone. And give it a second or two. It dries up real quick, because look how quick that dried up. And this was the part that got cooked off and down into the bone. Down here, you still have a ton of blood. I mean, that's just saturated with blood. But you see the balls? You see the black balls? That's some blood. The red hematite blood stays red. The vein blood turns black. So we're looking at some of each. And there's more black down here. Hold on. In that area, it looks like there might be a little more vein blood. Actually, it's on the other side of the fingertip is where it's going to be. This is primarily the red blood side. You see that? And then you come way out here to where the bone is. And this is on the top. It just cooked everything down to where you're into the bony stuff and into the blood. See that? This is right on the top of it. Now I'm going to go to the side where the vein would be and see if we can see some vein blood. All right, I know that's going to be very difficult for you to make anything out of this, but this is exactly where the vein is. Now, the rest of this is the bone, and it still has some reddish stuff in the bone. That's just the way that is. But this is where the vein itself was, and that is the black blood. You can see it down here. Hold on, let me make sure you understand exactly where that is. All right, because this is important to understand the anatomy. All right, so here we are. I just pointed you at that right there. That's where the vein is. There's another part of it up here, and there's a little bit at the end. The other side is where it had all the red blood. That's why that was wet and exploded. The black doesn't explode. And again, these are where the tendons were right there. You see that exactly perfect circle there. That's where the tendon locked in. All right, so this giant fingertip came through space. There's big ones, there's small ones, there's all kinds of different things floating around out there, but as far as I can find, it's all biology. All right, let's just finish up. I showed you there's blood, it's saturated with blood in rocks. The ones that are in space, if this came through space, that would have exploded just like this one did. The blood would have either melted and turned into a iron meteorite, or it would have exploded. Now, and this is the heart after it was exposed into the oxygen for a little while. It turned black, where normally this is the oxygenated blood. So it had to give up an oxygen, is my feeling, to come back to this black state, which is more or less the vein side, which I always talk about. The vein is black, the artery is red. This is a lung. That's a gigantic iron meteorite lung. And not only that, that little dot there, and I think I probably showed you this, but that was a while ago and my mind loses track of things. That's where the blood is, right there, coming out of there. That little tiny thing. I mean, there's a bunch of spots I found in here where you can find red here and there. But that is a lung. And I have one here. I have almost everything terrestrial that you can find in space. And there's one, that's it right there. Same thing. And if this had come through space, all of this red stuff would have turned to blood, and all of the cheap stuff would have went away. This was on Earth, it's just the opposite. All of the blood went away, basically, and all the fabric stayed. So that's that. Now, I know I showed you this one, which is the meteorite that had, whoops, let me back this up, that had blood here and blood here. And mine, the blood ran out because it just runs out. That sort of smelted in there, but it's still red. It's a red blood. Now, so that's that. That's a meteorite, and this is a bone. It's probably like a wrist bone or something like that attached to another bone with a ligament. So now we got that meteorite. All right, you saw this meteorite here. All these different types of crystals are different types of metals, and there's dozens of metals in your blood. Your blood is primarily metal, and that's why they smelt into. You see this? Your blood is almost all iron. However, these are also 26 more elements that are in there, which are metals. All of these different metals are in your blood. Those are all metals. And this is all about the blood tests to find out what is in the blood. All of those different things are in your blood. And they're in these different amounts in different areas of your blood. So you have, this is the whole blood, I believe. And then the next one here is the plasma. And the next one down here is the serum. And these are how much is in each one of those different areas. I showed you the red and the black looking and the yellow looking blood. That's the different types of blood. And this was a metallic profile of whole blood plasma and also serum. So these are all the different elements you're seeing. Those are all those different colors or those different metals. And then you have the red and the black is the artery and the vein. Closer up is here, you can see it a lot better. You see the red blood? What's that doing inside of here? Blood is, I'm telling you, it's tough, tough stuff. And that one there is the black, which is the vein blood. Two different styles. Fe2O3, which the extra oxygen, is the red. Fe2O2 is the black. That's the difference. And these, they know, these are completely saturated with blood. That's Bennu. They just went up and took a sample out of here. They are all hearts. That's a heart, and that's a heart. Well, this is a picture of a heart. Now, these are the valves. They have the valves. This has actually tubes coming out of it. Look at this. They're not craters, they're tubes. Look, there's a tube coming out of there because it's a heart. There's another tube coming out of here. That's a tube coming out of here. They're all over the place. They're not craters. And there's a ton of different plumbing in your heart, a lot of different plumbing. And this is the anchor to anchor the tendon, and the rest is muscle. And it's saturated full of blood. They landed on here, took a sample back to Earth, and I tell you right now, I showed you that blood samples. I sent that to NASA and all the rest of them. I said, I want to know if this is what's in that sample, because they took a sample back to Earth. I never heard anything, obviously. And this is Psyche, which is another heart. This got close enough to something that it almost got smelted to complete. But there's a lot of, the thinner areas got hot enough where they smelted, the cheap stuff left, and you're down into the metals. They're looking at this like, oh man, we can get all kind of gold or whatever they want out of there. They're just nothing more than hearts. It was written about in the ancient texts. There was battles in the heavens, and apparently that's just exactly what did happen.